I have a special treat for you today. I have a very good friend and a fellow entrepreneur who's made a huge difference out there in the world. Many of you know him already, but let me just paint a picture first. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about entrepreneurship, and it's a little different. You're going to see yourself in our discussion, but it's really about the people you care about. You know, so many of us have friends, family, it seems like almost everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, and the more successful we are, geez, it looks like it's easy. Well, we know it's not, but how can we help those people we really care about make a difference and an impact, and really explore whether they're right for entrepreneurship and how can they get on that path? Well, I have an expert, a good friend, as I said, Gino Wickman. He's been an entrepreneur for all his life, from 21. He's been really focused on this. And then, it's so often, many of us kind of get thrust into this. At 25, he took over the family business. And of course, the only reason you take over the family business at 25 is when there's challenges, and it was in debt, needed help, and he was able to turn it around and really make it successful, and it went full cycle. And that's something that's so important early on. And then Gino took that, and this is where you probably have run into him, the entrepreneur operating system. He's been out there. He was a founder of it, EOS, and really the systems to practically, to build it all out. So many of us are visionary, but you need all that stuff behind you to be hugely successful. And Gino's worked with a few of us, 1,800 full day sessions. I was looking at it, I go, wow, 130 companies, so many, about 60,000 companies doing this. Some of the books, particularly, probably the most famous is Traction, Get a Grip on Your Business, but Get a Grip, Rocket Fuel with Mark Winters, and then How to Be a Great Boss, and what the heck is EOS. So, if there's ever a guy that understands entrepreneurship, Gino does. And Gino and I have the pleasure of hanging out together at Strategic Coach with Dan Sullivan and his Game Changer program. And Gino's been working on this project for a long time, and he's got a coming out party, and he was kind enough to let me share it with you. And so with that, stay tuned. If you care about entrepreneurship, if you care about your family and friends who want to be entrepreneurs and be hugely successful, take care of the people they love, the causes they care about, and make a difference, stay tuned. This is all about accelerating entrepreneurial success.
Ordinary success? No way. You want amazing, remarkable, exceptional breakthroughs. Dig deep, think bold, drive hard, watch yourself soar beyond your dreams. AESNation.com.
I am so excited to have you here. We're usually sitting together in Chicago or Toronto with Strategic Coach, and to have you, the ability to share you with our audience, and what the huge difference you make. So first of all, thank you for joining us.
I'm glad we're finally doing this. We've been talking about it a long time.
We have, and one of the things we're going to talk about is you're putting this all together in a book, The Entrepreneurial Leap, and I'll tell you, this is something you and I are so passionate about, is entrepreneurship. And and you and I have a lot to be, we've been blessed, and gratitude, and the whole thing. And what I loved when you and I were talking was this whole concept of you were going to help people really identify whether they should even start this journey, because we've seen so many people fail. They have false ideas of what entrepreneurship looks like, and then what is the path. So first of all, why did you do this? I mean, you're a very successful guy. You had a great business going with EOS, and then you go, God, I got to do something else here.
Well, it's great because you talk about how we sit together in Strategic Coach. It goes back to when I was 40 years old, which was 12 years ago. I'm 52 now. And we were doing the bigger future exercise and looking out 10 years. And I just had this aha moment that when I turned 50, I am going to focus my energy on helping entrepreneurs in the making. And so that was the light bulb moment. And I was very patient because I was building EOS Worldwide and collected a lot of information and data and insights. And 2 years ago at 50, got to hunker down and start to write this book.
Yeah, it's interesting as as we all do these projects, and we all get every once in a while, I should do this. The difference is you actually go do it type thing, and so to go big picture, because as entrepreneurs, we get approached. I mean, I know I certainly do. I'm sure our fellow entrepreneurs do as well. Of this is really good. I mean, just had the pool guy was here. I had a transport guy to take one of our cars to service. And they always ask, kind of, what do you do? And how do you get started and all this? And I've never had a way of kind of helping them. Now I feel like I do. So, but tell me, why you did this project, and then kind of big picture, what's in it for our viewers or listeners of this, our fellow entrepreneurs.
Great. Well, there's an old saying that says we teach what we needed the most. Okay, and there's also a belief that most inspiration, ideas, insights we have as entrepreneurs, they stem from a wound or an issue, or but all that said, we teach what we needed the most. I thought about myself as a 16, 17, 18, 20, 22-year-old entrepreneur in the making, and I was so lost, and I was so confused and so insecure and so different then. And if I had this back then, my confidence would be higher, my clarity would be higher, I would feel less lost. And so that's the why behind it. And as we start to get into the content, for your audience, as I understand, it's an audience of successful entrepreneurs. And, there's really two main audiences for this book and why I wrote this book. The primary audience, or the first audience, is that end user entrepreneur in the making, any age, 16 to 60, but it's a person that possesses 6 essential traits, and we can talk more about what those are in just a bit. But it's helping that person get a huge jump start on taking their entrepreneurial leap. And then the second audience is for anyone that cares about them. And so you already mentioned that and touched on that. And so it's parents, it's teachers, it's aunts, uncles, guardians, professors. So it's anyone that wants to help entrepreneurs in the making get a huge jump start on becoming what they were put on this planet to be. And so what I created is a resource. So for your audience that are entrepreneurs, if they have any of these people in their life, or they have a passion for teaching and helping, and many of us get called upon to come in and speak as a guest in universities and things like that. This is a tool to make their lives easier. And so I created something I call a mentor track, which is just a really simple way of seeing the value of this. And so if you are an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur in the making has reached out to you and asked for your help, or you want to mentor an entrepreneur in the making, it's a really simple track. You hand them the book, you say, read this, we're going to meet in 7 days, write down all of your questions, and when we meet, I'm going to answer all of your questions. And for that mentor, you get to sit back, answer all their questions, but then you get to share your story, your life lessons. And again, you're just answering their questions. And so this book does a lot of the heavy lifting for you and makes you the hero. So that's the long dissertation as to why and what it'll do for your audience.
Well, what I love about it, Gino, is this whole, one of the so powerful in life to have what we call framing, the master framing. And this is a big issue, entrepreneurship, and not everybody's wired to be an entrepreneur, and I'll let you go through kind of that whole process. I mean, it's a big deal. And then when you get asked to mentor someone, and particularly if you're not used to doing that, this is, having this framing is really powerful. So let me go to the framing. You've organized the content into 3 areas. I still remember when you first shared with me, I'm kind of processing, I go, that's really good. It's just, so straightforward. Why don't you walk me through, what the three are, and then kind of big picture, and then we'll dive into them together.
Yeah, love it. And so as I talk about helping them get a huge jump start on taking their entrepreneurial leap, the other thing that I share, and there's going to be two controversial points in what I'm about to share is, I do want to, with this book and with this content, single-handedly increase the success ratio for people that start businesses. And you've heard all the statistics, and your audience knows the statistics that more than half of businesses fail and are out of business within the first 5 years. And so when I talk about that, as I get into these parts of the book, the third part really gets to helping improve that success rate if they took the leap. But I also want to help increase the success rate by talking people out of starting their own business. And so, again, as I mentioned, I believe there are 6 essential traits, and not everyone possesses them. And not everyone is an entrepreneur. And everybody wants to be an entrepreneur right now. And so I'm going to break some hearts with this message, because I'm going to also do my best to talk people out of taking the entrepreneurial leap if it's not for them. And so the 3 parts are confirm, glimpse, and path. And so the book is broken into those 3 parts. And confirm is all about this thing we're talking about right now, which is getting them to confirm whether they even have the 6 essential traits or not. Because the second controversial point is, I believe you're born with them. You're born with them, they're inherent, they're in you, you have them or you don't, they cannot be taught. And so this entire first part just goes deep into that. There's an assessment that they can take and ultimately decide. And if they decide, yes, I'm this, part 2 is then showing them a glimpse of what their life could look like in vivid color, all of their options, what it looks like. And that really will motivate somebody that has those 6 essential traits. And then the third part is called path, and that's showing them a path for how to increase the odds of success, help them eliminate half the mistakes they're going to make. They still have to make the other half. It's all part of the process, but that's the content in a nutshell.
Well, and I love it, Gino, because really what you have, one of the things, if we can help people avoid the mistake, if you're not right for it, and you and I, you've coached and worked with so many people, and I have the privilege of being a coach and working with really hundreds and thousands of financial advisors and helping them build businesses. And oftentimes you can kind of go, this isn't going to work type thing. And if we could shortcut it a little bit, and it's not that you can't have a great life if you're not an entrepreneur. There's a lot of other things you can do too, and the quicker we can do it. So let's go into the confirmation. And you brought up these 6 attributes, characteristics, or I guess you call them essential traits. What are they, and how can they help somebody right away get clear?
Yeah, and so as I'm sharing these, and as I'm about to say the 6, I would love for your audience to, so think about that person in your life right now, be that your son or daughter, niece, nephew, whatever it is, brother, sister, spouse. Think about that person right now and treat it as kind of a checklist so that you'll have fun and really engage with these 6 things. But the 6 essential traits are visionary, passionate, problem solver, driven, risk taker, and responsible. And so that's the high level. And I can go into a little more detail on each one if you like, but again, really treat it as a checklist. And for those, in the audience that are listening, I'm sure they checked all of the boxes, if they're a successful entrepreneur. And just, a quick run through each one. Visionary just means that, they have lots of ideas. They're able to connect the dots, see around corners. They just have what I call a 6th sense. Passionate is an absolute undying passion for the product, the service, a strong belief, a need to fill a void, that reality distortion field as Steve Jobs was described as having, but an incredible passion for filling that need. Problem solver means that they're great at solving problems. They love solving problems. They lean into problems. They are optimists by nature. They see solutions. When most of the world sees problems, they see solutions. Driven means they have an internal fire. So there's a difference between passionate and driven. Passion is about the product or service. Driven is about you just want to win. You want to succeed. You are competitive. You have a fire in you and sense of urgency. Risk taker means you take risks. Certainly calculated risk, but it means that you don't freeze when it comes time to make a big decision. And risk taking isn't just about taking the leap, it's about making 1,000 really tough decisions over a 10-year period, ultimately growing and building a successful company. And responsible means that you take total responsibility for the outcome. You blame no one when things go wrong. And there are two types of people in the world: those that take responsibility and those that blame others. And a person that blames everyone for everything that happens is just going to really struggle to build a great company. And those are the 6 essential traits in a nutshell.
Well, and then, as I'm checking it off, I'm going, okay, do I? Yeah, I guess I am here. And matter of fact, what I want to do is I'm going to put up on the screen real quick. And this is your website. Depending on when you're listening to it, it might be pre-publication or after. The date of the publication is let me blow it up here so everybody can see, October 15th. And Gino, why don't we go and just touch on taking the assessment here, because this is a great tool that you have for everyone, and it's free, it takes 5 minutes, it's easy to do. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so I like that you said the word free, so it's important that your audience knows that. And so in that first part, confirm, at the end of that part, there is then an assessment that they take. And I describe this as taking them on kind of a emotional, psychological, soul-searching journey for themselves, but the assessment is the culmination where they then commit to answering questions honestly about themselves that will ultimately determine, do they really have what it takes? And so they can go to the website, which is e-leap.com, and take the assessment for free and get a result. Might be fun for your audience to go do it, just as a little checkup and a refresher and all those good things. But
what do we do though, Gino, if we find out we're not in the making? I mean, I get worried for a second here.
Well, I think you might see the root of why.
Yeah.
But I find that hard to believe again, and I keep really, every time I talk about your audience and entrepreneurs, I say successful entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
But any one of my visionary entrepreneur clients, that are founders that take that test, they just redline it. I mean, they score 100. In worst case, it's a 98. But it's a lot of fun. It's really cool, and it's another tool, as is this entire book and content, for really helping this person make the right decision for themselves. Because at the end of the day, they've got to answer those questions. They've got to be honest with themselves. I know I will have a percentage of people that aren't honest and still take the leap, and that will be unfortunate. But that's the whole idea behind the assessment.
Hey, Gino, just touch on, one of the things, I didn't know this about you. I believe you didn't go to college. Is that correct? Or did you?
That is correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I read that in the book. And then, one of the things, we can go to Stanford, take entrepreneur studies. I'm in Silicon Valley. You can certainly open up a shop, and, there's a range of entrepreneurs, and and also you talk about the kind of the range, not only the type, but also whether you're self-employed, kind of in the gig economy, versus an entrepreneur. Why don't you just, as we're going through, because I want people to be able to visualize, what do these entrepreneurs look like? Because they come in a lot of different forms and a lot of different ranges.
Yeah. So with that, yes, I did not go to college. I graduated high school with a solid 2.3 average. Could not wait.
Well, and I think there's a predictor that B students end up owning businesses type thing, or if you go to a state school, this very few classic TV show type entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, and on that, I do an entire chapter in the path part of the book on college or not, and I go into great detail and statistics on whether you should or shouldn't. And this is in no way an anti-college book, because I think for most they probably should, and there's a lot of value for an entrepreneur to go to college. It's just not the value that people think it is. And then statistically, it's something like 44% of all entrepreneurs have a degree, which means like 56 don't. So it's a fascinating study and perspective. So anyway, with that said, academia was not for me. I could not wait to get out of school, and I just learned to educate myself my way. I spend a ridiculous amount of money educating myself, but I do it on my terms, my way. All that said, going back to your point, I'm really glad you brought it up because it's so important with this message. Very early on in the book, I teach something called the entrepreneurial range, and it puts to rest a misconception about this topic because this topic could be really defeating for some people. And I created this tool called the entrepreneurial range in a coffee shop, having a fierce debate with a professor of entrepreneurship. And so it's really cool because it just kind of came to light. And so what the entrepreneurial range is it's putting on a spectrum all self-employed people. And if you picture the left side of the range, I call that self-employed, and on the right side of the range, I call true entrepreneur. And anyone that is self-employed falls on this range. Well, the far left side of the range, that self-employed side of the range, these are the kind of one-man shows, one-woman shows, solopreneurs, people with a side hustle, a consultant, a freelancer. And so these are very admirable careers. These are people that are taking risks, but they're self-employed. Also somebody that buys one franchise location, things like that. On the far right end of the range are the greatest visionary entrepreneurs of all time. And what this book is speaking to in teaching are the people on the right side of the range, just that right half of the range. People that have an idea, product, service, a need they want to fill. They take a risk to start a business to fill that need and then build an organization with people around that need. And so those are people on the right side of the range. And so that's who we're talking to with this content. And that tends to help clarify the context of what I'm teaching while still making it abundantly clear that if someone goes out and starts a one-person show and they're making their couple $100,000 a year, that's extremely admirable. But you don't necessarily need all 6 essential traits to do that.
Yeah, no, and there's this is where there's that continuum, so we can be the one thing that I always want to do is and particularly for mentoring is we want to help people be successful on purpose, and whatever it is that's right for them, makes this huge difference. And so one of the things I get, and I started, when we were starting the podcast, I talked about, people come and I've got a nice house, I got fancy cars, I got a vineyard and all this, and I'm on top of a hill, and life looks easy, and of course, if I looked at me when I was 20, I go, why would I not want to be an entrepreneur? This looks like there's no effort whatsoever, The guy hardly leaves his house other than go out to a restaurant or something like that, or get together with friends. I mean, give us a little glimpse. I'm thinking that's probably not the way it's written in the book. Type, Gino?
Yeah, and I haven't counted the number of times I say how hard it is in the book, but it's a lot. Because again, I'm trying to talk people out of it, and to the degree I can't talk them out of it, then they probably have the 6 essential traits.
Well, and the reality, it is hard too.
Well, no, I'm not making that up.
Yeah.
It is hard, and the other thing too is, it's not as glamorous as everyone thinks it is. Not only is it hard, but we're pretty screwed up people at the end of the day. I mean, we are misfits. I mean, it's not like if we had to go do a real job that required consistency and structure, we'd be derelicts, misfits. I mean, it's...
Well, I think most of us are unemployable at this point, too, after you've started on this journey as well.
For certain. And again, and most of us have ADHD, and many have dyslexia, and many have OCD. I have all 3, a touch of dyslexia. But, I mean, listen, we're screwed up. It's not normal what we do and what we do to ourselves, but we do make quite an impact on the world.
Well, Gino, tell me, as you kind of paint this, and I mean, this is the reality, and, you in the book, you have 8 critical mistakes that entrepreneurs make. And I think I probably hit all 8 at different parts of my career. And I worked very hard not to do it. And, one of the things, and this is kind of the difference between being a self-employed like consultant, having a team, it's not only you, but it's your whole team doing this, but you being the visionary. But, kind of, why don't you walk us through these 8, because these are really important.
Yeah, and what's equally important is where they came from, because the other thing about this book is there is not 1 ounce of theory in this book. I have utter disdain for theory, and so I'm obsessive about making sure that I've seen something 100 times before I feel confident it's real. Testing something 100 times, experiencing it, teaching it. And so where these come from is, so as you mentioned, I created EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and my partner Don Tinney and I built EOS Worldwide and took it to the world. Well, where this stems from is our clients that come to us in EOS. And when they come to us, they tend to be suffering from a lot of frustrations. And so what this stems from is these are the mistakes that most entrepreneurs make building their business, and they are avoidable, and you can head them off at the pass. So that's the whole idea behind it, is I'm trying to say these are the mistakes that are made, and you don't have to make them. And so again, as quick as I can share them with hopefully taking advantage of teaching something. The first is not having a vision, and it's so basic and it's so simple, but it's incredible how many successful companies on the outside will come to us with no vision or lack of vision or too much vision. But it's incredible where you have these 6 incredibly talented leadership team members running this company, and they're just not on the same page. And so not having a vision is one of the most common mistakes. And man, once everyone is on the same page with that vision and you're all rowing in the same direction, look out.
Yeah, I call it the entrepreneurial fog that so many people have.
Well said. And then I teach a tool called My Vision Clarifier in this book that teaches exactly how to have a vision at launch of your business. To give one more nugget on that. Number 2 is hiring the wrong people. And so what is so common is a startup just throws people at the problem, or you hire your brother or your sister or your aunt or your parent or somebody and it's absolutely the wrong person, but you're just trying to throw bodies at stuff and you're grabbing the nearest body you can find. Well, obviously that's one of the mistakes, but the bigger mistake is then 3 years later, when you realize this is the wrong person, or a month later or a year later, you're stuck with a lot of people around you that are just the wrong people, and you're having to clean house. And so I can't tell you how many times my clients have to literally get rid of 20 to 40% of their people because of a bunch of bad hires just trying to build a company. And so it's absolutely avoidable. You can head that off at the pass. Number 3 is not spending time with your people. And so communication is the word to summarize that. I can't tell you how many times nobody's communicating. Everyone's just barreling forward. Orders are being shot. And so it's so powerful when at launch you just communicate with your people. Once you have a person, and then a second person, and a third, and a fourth, and a 10th, and a 50th, and a 100th, you just need to communicate with your people. And meeting them with them weekly, sitting down with them quarterly, and giving them feedback often are 2 remedies that solve that overnight. Number 4 is not knowing who your customer is. And this is so common where, a startup and an entrepreneur is trying to be all things to all people, and they're just trying to sell their stuff to anyone that listens. Well, to the degree on the front end, you can get laser clear on who your ideal customer is and speak their language, gear your message toward them, make sure you're targeting them, and say no to everyone else, you'll grow your company substantially faster.
Gino, were you an outside funded company, or were bootstrapped?
Bootstrapped.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I go into detail on in this book, because it's another fallacy. It's like 95% of all companies don't rely on outside funds to start. And so, all these entrepreneurs are being taught about how to go raise funding when there's only a 5% chance they're going to need funding. So,
well, and they probably shouldn't take funding because it exacerbates all the problems that you're talking about here.
Exactly. So 100% bootstrap, which then there's a whole nother avenue or a tentacle to that, which says these freaking 10-page business plans are just such a gross waste of time. If you're not raising funding, you don't need a 10-page business plan. You need a vision. So anyway, I go into great detail on that as well in the book in terms of what's really important when you're launching a business. If you're ready, I'll keep rolling here.
Yeah, keep it going here. They're all good.
Is not charging enough. And again, I go into detail in the book on this, but it's so fascinating to me how afraid people are to charge their true value. And so not charging enough, there's two sides to it. Number one is, I love Dan Sullivan's formula, and I'm going to screw it up a little bit, but he talks about pick the number that scares you and then add 20%. I just love that thinking. Number two, it's all about value. And so make sure you're providing incredible value and you've educated your customer or client on that value, and you will be able to raise your fees and charge more. And so my point in that is, if you've launched your business and you're breaking even or losing money in the first year, raising your fees 10 to 20% is the difference between becoming profitable and losing money and sustaining your startup. So it's such a common mistake. And again, with clients, I can't tell you how many times I've nudged or urged them to raise fees. You raise your fees 10%, assuming you can and you're providing that value. That goes right to the bottom line. All of a sudden, you increase profits 10%. Quick math. Number 6 is not staying true to your core. And so one of the things that entrepreneurs suffer from when you launch your business, you got to be clear on who that customer is, clear on what it is you're providing them, be it a product or a service. And so what happens is success begets success. And there's a great quote in Good to Great, Jim Collins' book, that says, and I can't remember the root of the quote right now, but or who the leader was that said it, but it's, the more successful you become in business, the more likely you are to die of indigestion of too many opportunities than from starvation of not enough. And so the point is, the more successful you are at launch, the more stuff's going to come at you, and we call that shiny stuff. And your job is to continue to just push the shiny stuff away, say no to the shiny stuff, and stay true to your core. Because again, a lot of times you'll have this amalgamation of 5 different things you're doing that are out of your core. Hopefully that makes sense. Number 7 is not knowing your numbers. And so it's amazing how many entrepreneurs just go by their gut and fly by the seat of their pants. So to the degree you just get really clear on what the 5 to 15 most important numbers you should be looking at every week are, make sure you're looking at monthly P&Ls, make sure you're reviewing a budget. And yes, that's even in the first 6 months when you're trying to survive and you've only generated 50 grand, those things are vital, and the difference between making it and breaking it. And then number 8 is not crystallizing roles and responsibilities. And even if you have 2 people in your company, it is vital that you crystallize roles and responsibilities. You'll realize so much efficiency. You'll not trip over each other. You'll get more done. And so that goes for the first employee all the way to the 100th employee. And so those are the 8 critical mistakes that most entrepreneurs make when launching their companies.
Well, and I know I've found a few more than that too, Gino, along the way. But those are the big ones.
Yes, those are the big ones. Yeah, I could have listed 10 more, but those are the biggies. Those are gonna, that's 90% of the battle right there.
So let me take a step back, for our audience too. I mean, number 1, confirm, and and really, Gino's got the website. It's at www.e-leap.com, and you can have whoever you're talking with take the assessment and really buy the book, have them read it, take the assessment. It's just such a great way. And then they, if they go through this, the way I'm thinking about, Gino, if they've read the book, they've confirmed, if they've had the glimpse, they haven't gone ahead and said, God, this is, I'm going to go get a job somewhere else where I work 9 to 5, and why would I want to do this? But if they want to do this, if we think about it, talk about the path, particularly as fellow entrepreneurs, how we can support someone that we care about that has said, I think I want to do this.
Yeah, that's great. And also, as you're flashing the website, I want your audience to know they can also, there's a free downloadable chapter, which is basically the first 25 pages of the book, 100% free. So If the book hasn't come out yet, not sure when this podcast is coming out, you can access that. But also, even if it has, you can have access to the first 25 pages, which takes you deep into the book and the content and the context, and it's either going to suck you in or it's not. So for what that's worth, that's also available.
Yeah, my guess is it's going to suck them in. As fellow entrepreneurs, we want more people to be entrepreneurs if they're ready to be entrepreneurs, and they're good candidates.
Yeah. So so to answer your question, it goes back to what I had suggested earlier, because again, when I don't know about your audience, but for me, I love helping entrepreneurs. But I will admit, when an entrepreneur in the making or an entrepreneur that started their business asks me for help, I get nervous. I guess it's a big responsibility, and I don't know if I can help them.
Well, and you and I know how easy it is to get sucked in because we both care, and particularly if it's a family friend type.
Imagine you give the wrong advice or something. So my point in all of that is, what I believe anyone that wants to help an entrepreneur first and foremost can do is share their story and share their life lessons. So that alone is going to be it's going to be incredibly valuable to an entrepreneur in the making. From there, you see where the relationship goes. But what this book does is, again, as I mentioned earlier, is a lot of the heavy lifting. So that mentor track is hand in the book, tell them to read it, eat in a week, have them ask you all the questions from the book, then tell your stories, give your lessons, and see where the relationship goes. And then as for the nitty gritty of the business and the questions they're asking and tough decisions they need to make, you as the mentor have to decide how deep you want to go into that business. And some should not go that deep into the business. But this book is going to do 90% of the teaching for you so that it frees you up to answer those questions, to tell your story, to teach your lessons. And again, like I said, it's going to make you a hero.
Well, Gino, as I look at it, I mean, I've got a bunch of nephews and nieces and friends that I'm going to be buying a bunch of books for. And I've had the privilege of reading it on the galleys as you put it together, and it's just so powerful. And again, I want to encourage everyone and my fellow entrepreneurs to go to e-leap.com. You can see on the screen, you'll get this page, depending on if it's before October 15th, before the launch of the book. You'll have access to the free chapter. Take the assessment. I think it will be entertaining for you as well. But this is a great resource for people that you care about, really, are they entrepreneurs in the making? Because, as Gino said, I mean, one of the things that I get very nervous, I was on with one of my family members and, wants to start a business. And, I'm going, I'm trying to explain to him, no, I'm not going to seed the capital. You got to bootstrap it. And walking them through the step processes and having a resource like this book to really get them thinking about so we could have higher level conversations is just so invaluable. So Gino, I want to thank you for taking the time, energy, and the passion to bring all your entrepreneurial experience to the really to these entrepreneurs in the making.
It's an absolute pleasure doing it.
Well, and Gino, why don't we wrap up here? Is there anything, if I were a little smarter, that I would have asked you so that we could help all these entrepreneurs in the making and all our fellow entrepreneurs who want to be mentors and really make that difference?
Yeah, I think we hit it all, but you prompted something with what you said a few sentences ago, and we could go a whole 30 minutes on this, and obviously we're not going to, but I do an entire chapter on second and third generation entrepreneurs. And so if any of your audience is an entrepreneur and you're looking at your son or daughter and thinking, do they have what it takes to take the reins of this business? I also go very deep into that to help you and that person make the right decision for yourselves. And so this book is as much written for that situation, as it is an entrepreneur in the making out of the group.
It's been great, Again, just encourage everybody to go to, let me just blow it up big so you can see it as best you can. We'll have it in the show links as well, show notes. If you're driving, don't hold your phone up to see if you're watching it on video. e-leap.com. It's all, the entrepreneurial leap. Do you have what it takes to become an entrepreneur? And Gino, again, thank you. This is a huge resource. I think it's going to make a big difference in the world. And we know so much of, really what's good out there is created by entrepreneurs. And we got a lot of entrepreneurs in the making, and we're going to help them identify themselves and really get very quickly on a path to making a huge difference. Well done.
Thank you. Always such a pleasure to talk to you, John.
All the best, continued success, and everyone out there, we're all about accelerating entrepreneurial success. Well, here we have a chance to make a difference with the people we care about. Let's go do it. Make it happen.
Exceptional, remarkable breakthroughs. AESNation.com.